Hello, and thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Stream Stealers. I'm Mark Pikert, editor-in-chief of Playbill, and I'm very, very excited about today's guest. We'll get into why. He doesn't know why. I immediately jumped at the opportunity to have him on. But it's Philip Winchester, who you probably know from TV, from film. He was on Strike Back on Cinemax. He's been doing the One Chicago series. He was in Robinson Crusoe. Anyway, he's got a new movie coming out with Megan Fox, Rogue, coming up at the end of the month. He also has a big stage background, very fancy training, much fancier than any schooling I've ever had. And he did King Lear with Ian McKellen. So lots of cool stuff to talk about. Let's bring him on.
Hey.
Hello, Philip Winchester.
Nice to see you, Mark.
It's nice to see you. So we didn't even get into this before the show, but I saw a critics screening of In My Sleep.
Oh, did you? Okay, is this the secret?
This is the secret. This is the secret. I saw a critic screening, and the next day I woke up, maybe hungover, and said, I'm joining a goddamn gym. Because of you, Philip Winchester. So thank you.
Well, I guess you're welcome. It's sort of horrible when you join a gym, but yeah, okay, you're welcome. That was a long time ago, though. That was I was, when you're younger and you think about working out and you get more fit. That was kind of in that time in my life, and it's different now. It's just different.
Yeah, well, especially during COVID, it's very different because I wake up and I'm like, oh, I should really do something real quick in the living room before it gets too hot. And then I think
that's right.
Or I could just sit in front of the fan and drink another cup of iced coffee before I start working.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My wife and I, when all this kicked off back in March, and it was still snowing in Montana, and still the weather was, kind of terrible. It would give us teases of 60-degree weather, and then it would snow again for another week. And the gym shut down, and we looked at each other, and we're pretty active, and we were like, well, so we have the garage, we can do pull-ups in the garage. And then I went to the tire factory down the road from us and got a bunch of old tires from their tire graveyard, and then a sledgehammer. And we just worked out in the alley with tires and sledgehammers. It was kind of cool.
Oh, as part of my research for this interview, I did watch that video on your Instagram.
So that's been our gym for the last few months.
Well, that's lovely. And actually, now that New York City has loosened restrictions a little bit, right. I get to go to the park with my trainer who has you to thank for me putting his kids through school.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Which has been huge and lovely. But we're not here to talk about my body.
Okay.
We're here to talk about your body of work.
Ah, nicely done there, Mark.
Yeah, I was really proud of that. I felt that one.
Yeah. Where do you want to start?
You've got this whole cool movie with Megan Fox where you guys are on a team of mercenaries trying to rescue a kidnapped daughter, and you end up trapped on a lion farm in South Africa?
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. Can you just come with me and do my press with me? Because that was a great pitch. And I'd appreciate if you could just come along with me and do that. That's exactly right. We shot this film last year in October. It was a 5-week shoot. 4 of those were night shoots. 4 weeks of those were night shoots. So it was pretty intense. But we got around to it. I flew in from the States a couple days before we started filming. So I was sort of my clock was already sort of ready for the night shoots. And we jumped right in with it. Megan came in. We met up with a bunch of the South African cast and crew. By the way, South Africa has their crews are just incredible. They're so hardworking and they're so brilliant. And the rest of the cast was South African as well. So we all jumped in and did a little bit of training together, and then started making this movie with MJ Bassett. And it was good times because MJ and I have a lot of history together. We worked on Strike Back for years and years. We did a film called Solomon Kane back in 2008. So it was kind of a family reunion of sorts.
And I think MJ is the only person you've previously worked with who will work with you still.
That's exactly right. Right. Yeah. She has said, okay, I'll put up with him. Yeah. Basically.
But what does that mean when you're coming into a new environment, to an entirely new country, to do a movie where you have that level of trust and mutual respect with the director?
Well, that was the reason I did it, to be honest with you. MJ and I we do have a lot of history in making television together and some film. And so when she reached out, she said, I wrote this for you. Joey Kaczynski is the character in the movie, and she said, I wrote this for you, have a look at it. And we sort of tiptoed around it, and I said, oh, it's great, MJ, I really like it. And then I never heard back from her for a while. And I started to see that the movie was getting legs and that Megan had said yes and bits and pieces. So I just reached out and I said, so have you cast that role? It's a great role. Who's going to do it? And she goes, I wrote it for you. And I was like, yeah, I know you wrote it for me, but have you cast someone? Not picking up any of the clues. And I was like, oh, you want, I'd love to. Let's go. Let's go. So it was, in the sense of hopping back into South Africa. I mean, we were out in South Africa with Robinson Crusoe. We were out there with Strike Back. So it was like going home in a way. We had a lot of similar faces in the crew, and even in the cast. People who worked on Strike Back years ago had come back to work on this. Kenneth Falk, the guy who plays we're sort of the best friend roles in this, and just to see him pop up again, it was amazing. So it was like going home for me.
Yeah. Well, I have to say, one of the things that I like most about having paid attention to you for the last decade and change is you are this extremely attractive leading man who chooses the most off-kilter roles and series to do, and they're always so interesting. And for whatever reason, like I'm thinking of The Player, which was a fantastic series, and so fucking weird, Philip.
So weird, right? So weird. Yeah, which is why I loved it and why I said yes to it. Yeah, it's really interesting. I recently worked on Law and Order SVU, Peter Scanavino, and I became really close friends. And we would laugh sometimes when we would get either fan mail or questions, and people would say, how do you pick your work and this and that? I'm like, look, man, I just want to work. So when I get an offer, I'm like, yeah, let me seriously think about that. So I've been fortunate enough to where these types of roles have just sort of lined up and followed me. And I think it might have started after King Lear. I trained in London, did these funky little bits and pieces for a while, and then I did King Lear a few years after I graduated. And after Lear, I think something clicked, and I started falling into more definitely action-based genre, but definitely kind of quirkier and definitely a little more funky. I mean, Strike Back was funky and had its own sort of energy going for it, which is why it had such a good following, because it was pretty bonkers.
Well, I mean, what is doing something like King Lear for the amount of time that you did it with Ian McKellen as Lear? Right. What does that do for your own confidence as a performer?
I think that for my confidence, I'm not sure about my confidence, but I was able to learn. Like, every job is an opportunity to learn, right? Whether you're coming in as a guest role and a day player and you're just doing a bit here and there, or whether you're in 10 months in a full, for a full season of a show, it's always an opportunity to dig deep and learn. Lear was particularly brutal like that, because not only were we put through the ringer because it was theater, as you know, and the people who watch this, and theater is no joke. I mean, especially nowadays. I think they've even added a show, because I think they do Wednesday matinees, Saturday matinees, and Sunday matinees. Is that right?
It's still an 8-show week, but it's
an 8-show week. But it's a marathon, right? And you have to completely give over that part of your life to what you're doing. So at that time, I was single, didn't have kids, and we jumped into Stratford-upon-Avon and started the show. I think it was March 24th in Stratford-upon-Avon, and started this amazing tour with Lear. So we went to Newcastle, Singapore, New Zealand, New York, Minneapolis, Los Angeles, and then finished in the West End in London. And we did Lear and the Seagull in rep. And every single night, or every performance, Ian would do it different. And just, I would sit by the tannoy in the dressing room or the Vom waiting to go on. And you would listen to this man who was so brilliant at what he did that he could play with it. And it's not playing with just regular old words. It's Shakespeare, so, and he knew it so well, and he trusted his abilities so well that he just played with it. And I remember watching and listening to that and thinking, man, this is special. I don't know if this is ever going to happen to me again. And so my learning happened almost entirely off stage, as I absorbed what him and Francis Barber and Romola Gary and William Gaunt and all these incredible actors and actresses were doing. And I'm forever going to be grateful for it, because it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. But
then you quickly realized that theater does not have craft services. So.
That's right. Or helicopters. something.
You need a helicopter. Well, if you do Miss Saigon, do Miss Saigon.
Yeah, that's true. I could do Miss Saigon. So I remember my mother and father saying that when we lived in London in 88, 89, 90. And I remember them coming home after Miss Saigon and being so blown away by it. That's a helicopter landed on stage. And I was like, whatever. And really, yeah.
Can you sing? Is a musical in your future?
So that's one of those questions, right? I sing. Now, whether other people want to listen to it is a completely different thing, right? I mean, lots of people sing. I think we all sing. But yeah, I mean, you know, it'd have to be pretty loose. I did do my senior year of high school. I missed my senior prom because I was playing Danny Zuko in Greece at a theater in Livingston, Montana, which is just down the road from where I grew up in Belgrade, Montana. And I did sing, but I think I just skimmed by.
Well, there's only one way to find out. I'm going to need 8 bars from you.
Coming right
song. So what have you been doing in quarantine other than hitting giant tires with hammers in your backyard?
You know, a lot of this time has been, I don't know about you, and I think a lot of people in the artistic community, but for me, my wrestle with what I do and what we do as artists is the lie that the next job's going to bring me happiness, and the next job's going to be the thing that fulfills me, and the next job's going to be the one, you know? And so a huge part of this time off has been accepting the fact that that's just not true, and that what we do, our body of work is kind of, we've made these choices, we've been fortunate enough to work and to earn a living and to save it and to ride this stuff out. But equally, the time off that I have with my family right now has been the biggest gift of my life. And I have, you know, I've spent all this uninterrupted time with my 5-year-old daughter, Charlie, and my 18-month-old daughter, James, and my wife. And I've got to be a father and a husband. And it's instead of a father and husband who the phone rings one night and he's gone for 6 months or 5, whatever it is, I've just had this uninterrupted time, and it's been amazing. So a big chunk of that time right now. So the last month we've been building a treehouse for the girls. So Charlie gave me her designs and told me exactly what she wanted in there. And so I've been building a treehouse in the corner of our fence in our yard. It's a fence fort, not a treehouse.
A fence fort. All right. I'm obsessed with what this design entails.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, the right angle where our fence meets up, there's a right angle, right?
Uh-huh.
And I took the diagonal of it and built a diagonal, basically put a 2x6 across the front of it and built a floor on it with a cantilever off the back of the fence. So it's like a big triangle, but on its side. I could take you over there right now. I can take this footage. We can go right over there.
I don't know if we're ready for a field trip. I'm
ready for that.
My God. Also, people are tuning in right now, and wow, 23 viewers currently.
Hey, fantastic.
One person wants to know what your favorite color is.
I know my daughter asks me that every day. I think we're at green right now.
Great.
Just green. We'll go with green.
And someone asks if you still talk to your mate Lex Shrapnel.
Lex Shrapnel. Yes, actually, we spoke not that long ago during quarantine. He's a good lad. Those were good times. So that's Thunderbird days. Yeah, Lex is a good dude, and he's working quite a bit too as well. So it's always nice to see that. It's always nice to see people who you got along with in the past through various jobs pop up and be like, hey, you're still doing it. Good for you. Because it's a grind.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing that makes me happier than seeing someone from 10 years ago pop up with some amazing job.
Right. And you go, man, good for you.
Unless it's someone I knew 10 years ago and hated who pops up bad with a really terrible dead-end job.
Yeah, that's right. That's
right. Well, as we begin to wrap up, because shockingly, we do have to wrap up shortly.
Are you serious? Oh, my God.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we'll have an after show. Don't worry. We'll have an after show.
Good. That's good. We'll have a drink after this. Okay.
So first of all, are there any organizations or charities that you want to draw attention to right now?
That's a great question. My wife and I give to a charity called Christ Gift Academy in Bita, Kenya, and it's an AIDS orphanage that my wife actually worked at for 2 years. She was a teacher there. They do amazing work with the AIDS orphanage, with the AIDS orphans that are coming out of that community. It's been devastated by HIV/AIDS, and they do a wonderful job of 3 square meals a day, clothes on their back, and a really great education. So we really love that program. Yeah. And it's great to see practical things, going into these kids' lives.
Yeah. And the other end of the spectrum is the final question, which is, when you're not busy building a fort, what have you been watching during quarantine?
Oh, no, this is good. So we went, I don't know about you, but things got a little, right in the beginning when things were really scary, I couldn't watch like sort of the typical stuff that I would be a part of. We couldn't watch that with anything that was stressful or anything like that. So we went deep diving into the Jordan documentary, which was just, nostalgic and beautiful and incredible. We finally finished season 3 of Stranger Things, which was delicious and such a love letter to the 80s. We just love that. We've been catching up on old British things. I love the older British stuff like Fawlty Towers and the Mighty Boosh. I don't know if you've ever caught up on the Mighty Boosh, but it's nice and light and kooky. It's basically Monty Python on acid, I think, is what it is.
Okay.
It's brilliant. And it's very kooky and very funny, and it's all sketch comedy where the characters play 100 different roles, and it's wonderful comedy. So we watched a bit of that to lighten things up.
I thought for sure that when you began, it was going to be, well, we couldn't watch anything that I would be part of because of tone. But as the summer progressed, we really sat down and went through my whole oeuvre. Yeah. And really dug deep into The Player and Robinson Crusoe.
And went, ooh, those were some choices, brother.
Can you watch yourself? Is that like, can you objectively watch yourself?
I've learned to do that. And I've learned to do it for that reason, to go, let's change that. And I've learned to be objective. I actually had a cameraman on a movie called Flyboys. He was a Steadicam operator. And he said, because I think I was young at the time, and I said, no, I don't want to watch it. It's kind of odd for me. And he said, you should learn to do it so that you can fix or appreciate and keep doing what you're doing. And so I took that on board, and it became really helpful. Although nowadays, with the way you shoot television, it's so fast. And it's bonkers. How many pages you're getting through a day? You barely have time to look at the monitor. And most directors are saying, say you can't look at this. So
well, that's why they're in Video Village, way off.
That's exactly right. Yeah, Video Village, miles away, eating craft service.
I'm also obsessed with the number of shows that rather than just get a backdrop and hang it, they just green screen everything.
Gosh, it's true. Although I've been fortunate. Like all the kind of kooky things that we managed to pull off were all in camera.
Really?
There was some green screen in Robinson Crusoe, but we built the treehouse, we built the ship, all of that stuff was pretty real. Strike Back was all in camera. I think there was maybe a handful of explosions that weren't real just for time's sake, but everything else was real. Pretty cool. And I think that the audience knows that. We've seen so much of it now that there's a little thing that goes off in the back of your head and goes, that's bollocks. That's not real. And if you get that, you're out of the movie. So if you can do it for real, it makes all the difference.
I just think there's a tactile quality to doing stuff in camera that is worth the effort, I think. And also, I could film something with a green screen and make it look great. Who cares?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. It is that old thing of, real film is actually capturing something on it. And I think that the essence of what that is, there's a craft to it, dare we say that word, but there is something involved that requires a bit of craft and a bit of love, right? So the more we can do that, I think the more we respect our audience rather than say, oh, they won't know.
You are all about the craft of acting and the craft of craft services.
Yeah, this is true.
I very much appreciate about you. And before we wrap up, one more person says, what genre other than action would you like to play? Horror, rom-com?
I would love to do a comedy. I think that, again, this is like the singing thing. People think they can do it. They think they can sing. They think they can do comedy. And then it turns out, oh, no shit, it's a real talent. And you got to either you have it or you have to learn how to do it. And so I am surrounded by really funny people. I've got some great friends in LA who I came up through the ranks with, and they're just hilarious. And that always scared me away from doing rom-com or comedy, because they were so good that I thought, I can't do this. But I think the levity that happens on a comedy set and the fun that you have with the improv, that's something that I would really like to be a part of. And the creative process of finding out what's funny together, that just looks like that's what it's all about, right? The process.
Are you saying it's about the craft? Are you saying that
it's about the craft? Yeah.
Are you saying that you might want to take a break from heavy action drama?
Well, no, not necessarily. Maybe we can mix them a bit. Rogue managed to do that, which I was grateful for. Rogue was action comedy for me.
I mean, you know what? I'm going to write a quarantine script for you and Jason Statham.
Do it, Mark. Do it.
It is going to be a gay rom-com, though, so
that's fine.
Great. Some might call it fan fiction. I'm going to call it a screenplay.
Brilliant. Jason will love it, I'm sure.
I'll get it to your people.
Get it to my people, yeah exactly.
All right. Philip Winchester, thank you so much for joining me today. Guys, check out Rogue. It's going to be on video on demand August 28th?
28th, that's right.
Friday, August 28th.
Yep.
So, guys, in this very strange time, we can watch first-run movies at home. Take advantage while we can.
It's wild. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it? Movies come out on your TV. We live in the future.
I love it. I'm saving so much money on popcorn.
Mark, thanks so much, man. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. And guys, thank you for tuning in. Tune in again on Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern when I'm talking to Brandy Walker from Stars This